Hello everyone, I recently made a video about making refractory fire bricks and realized that people always question why I did things or suggest what they think is better. So what this video is describing the mechanisms behind refractory fire bricks and other potential solutions such that people can design their own based off of the understanding of how the bricks work. To describe the very basic principle that we're trying to make use of, I'll pass it over to Ion Energy.
If you want to trap heat energy, you've got to insulate. And that means creating a gap the energy can't pass through as easily. Air gap is good, but it's not as good as the trapped heat energy. That's it, now you're thinking.
While Ion was only talking about insulation for, let's say, 30 degrees Celsius, the same principle still applies of maintaining pockets of trapped air to retain heat. And as we can see here, there are multiple ways of achieving this same effect. The same applies for fire bricks. So if it all works with the same mechanism, why can't we just use house insulation? Vogman from YouTube tried and discovered why.
It's not pretty. It's clearly charred and it's lost its strength. I can even push my finger straight through it.
He then goes on to describe another method of insulation which he used, which also suffered a similar decomposition after extended and repeated thermal exposure.
Unfortunately, after about the third or fourth use, it begins to fall apart.
This resistance to thermal decomposition is one of 5 basic capabilities that I have defined for what a fire brick should be able to achieve. The first capability is obviously to thermally insulate. The second is to be able to be molded and retain its shape while at a cold temperature. The fourth is basically 2 and 3 combined, but it's a little bit extra, and that's the resistance to fracture just in general. Finally, the fifth is resistance to boric acid. You only really need to consider this if you're working with borax flux, for example if you're making Damascus. So again, to thermally insulate, you want to create pockets of trapped air. One way of achieving this is by including an additive which already has its own segregated air pockets, which is also resistant to high temperatures. What I used in my last video was perlite. I've also used vermiculite in the past. I'm sure there are also many others which fulfill this criteria. Another option is to use a foaming or effervescing agent which will create those air cavities, assuming you're starting from a liquid or slurry state. The final method I can think of for this is a burnout, so if you include small bits of organic material, or I can imagine styrofoam, that sort of thing would work quite well. Upon firing, these will burn out and leave the required cavity. I believe that adding something with its own air pockets will result in a stronger brick, because what you're using to bind everything together has something to grab onto rather than just itself. Next is quite a basic section. I'm guessing that you want to shape your refractory, so you'll want something that is either castable or fireable. Generally this will be some form of cement, plaster or clay. Just make sure that what you're working with doesn't melt at the temperatures that you're going to be using. As we know from the beginning of this video, only taking these first 2 things into account will likely result in a mixture that will work great to start with, but quickly degrade. A common solution is to use a high temperature adhesive such as sodium silicate or water glass. Another option is just to use a better initial binder such as satinite in place of your cement or plaster. To compromise on cost, you could simply coat your bricks which were made with a weaker binder. Fourth, we have general fracture resistance, for which I could only think of either including a large mesh or some fibrous material. These would also have to be heat resistant, so you'd have to have something like stainless steel mesh or ceramic wool. And finally we have boric acid resistance, which is necessary when using borax flux. Generally, to increase resistance, it seems you want to increase the amount of aluminium oxide, otherwise known as alumina. You can also use the products on screen as either binders or coatings. Another option is of course just to ignore all of that complicated costly stuff and insert sacrificial pieces whenever you're working with borax. And there it is. Hopefully that was useful. Let me know what you end up doing in the comments. Consider subscribing, and goodbye.